These are the things the
That's
Athenians,
perhaps another story.
the city states would have used. The Greek city states would have used these techniques. These have been around for 2,000 years, 2,500 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Structured conversations, not just a free for all conversation, but a conversation with like a plan. Okay, um, to involve to get everybody's involvement, but yeah, there has to be a certain structure. There has to be somebody to run it. To some idea of the structure and say, right, we're gonna. This is what convenes the meeting and says, right, this is what we're going to do. Everybody is to think of three things that they want. First of all, I guess you'd need to. I guess before you do that, you say, right, what we're going to do, we're going to have a structured conversation, and the idea is that we leave here in an hour's time with three values, principles, or aims that most people here can agree with. Now, does not sound like a good plan, and everybody's going to go, yeah, yeah, fantastic. And of course, somebody's going to say, yeah, that's okay, but I want to talk about my idea first, or somebody's going to criticize and you say, right, well, this is the way we're going to run it. So if you don't like it, you're welcome to run another. You can run another session tomorrow. But I've convened this session, or we've convened this session, so we're going to run it this way. So and invite you to participate, and see how you get on, and then you go off and start doing it. Run through a process. Um, and this is where I need to go and look at if I'm going to do this. I'm going to, well, I've got a fair idea because I've looked into this. How to looked at videos of how to and it's how to do the brainstorming part of it, the root, the structure, and it's quite a simple structure really. Like the brainstorming part of it. For Andrew, this is more for Andrew's benefit because Andrew wasn't present. Can you hear me, Andrew? I mean, if he's not listening, there's no point going through it again. But yeah, I won't say it again because I already explained it to you, Pat. We already went through the brainstorming section part of it to get the ideas out, and then people pick three each, and then there's a vote taken, and the next week people might have thought it might be the catalyst to have people think more deeply about what it is they actually want, and they come back the following week and we go through the process again, and maybe it takes 10 iterations going through the process before we're finally happy with the process and the end result.
Yeah, yeah.
And if people like the process and people get buy-in, then they say, "Oh, I want my friend to take part in this. I want to bring 5 people from my life to take part in this. If you're going to do one next week, I want to be there myself, but I want to bring people to it as well because this is powerful. This is a powerful process, and I've done this process once with a bunch of Irish nationalists, and it was really powerful because everybody was like trying to fight for airspace to get their own point of view across, and nobody was listening to anybody else at all. Nobody was. Yeah, but yeah, it was all yeah. But no. Yours won't work. Listen to mine. Listen to mine. No. Listen to mine. So that's not the way. That's not a productive way to get a consensus. There has to be a structure. Structure is to let everybody take a turn and put forward some ideas, write them all down, and then have a vote, and then tot it all up and do it all publicly. So you put a wee farm gate beside each one, and then people can see that the process was transparent. People walked out of that. There was a calmness and a sense of unity. Walked out of that room. It was a wee hut in the forest in County Clare. It was a special. It was like a
yeah.
It was like a nice feeling. It was a beautiful feeling. Actually, it was like a feeling of unity by going through this process. And the magic was the process. The magic was just having a bit of structure to it. Just, the there's a time to speak and a time to listen, and everybody has their time to listen to speak, and they're limited, and then they have, they say their bit, and then everybody. Anyway, look, I've overdone that one to death.
And it's a tried and tested process. It's worked for creating consensus with groups all over the world for decades, if not more than decades. In fact, as I said earlier, it probably goes back to the Athenians, and who knows beyond. Just having a structure rather than just a free-for-all. Everybody gets to say, everybody gets their say, but everybody takes a turn, so everybody gets listened to. And there's a limit, there's a time limit, and there's a structure that everybody has to say the bit in a certain format, like 3 points, for example, and they're not allowed to criticize what somebody else says. They have to listen to it, and then when it's their turn, they put forward their thing. So we get out of this idea of somebody puts something up and then everybody shoots it down, and 5 minutes later somebody puts something up and then everybody else shoots it down, and then like 2 hours somebody feels brave enough to put something up because everybody shoots it down, and after that nobody ever puts anything up because everything just gets shot down. So anyway, play on.
By the time you've gone to 20 people, you see that some of the aims are more popular than others. Some have got 5 votes, and some have got 3 votes, and some have only got 1 vote. Well, the long tail will only have 1 vote. And then you go through your 50 people, you take a vote on all, you do your factor analysis, and then press the lever, and the 3 most popular ideas come out, and then 80% of the people will see something that they've put down represented.
I think I'm relooping this again. Apologies.
By the time you go to 20 people, you see that some of the aims are more popular.
Where were we? Maybe up about 20 minutes. Feel free to hit me up with a comment. I'll just keep playing until find the spot.
By the time you've gone to 20 people, you see that some of the aims are more popular than others.
Yeah. There's just after 20 minutes.
Instance, internal, and if you're talking about internalizing messages, if you've been part of the process of creating those
we heard that.
And you'd have spent an hour.
I don't want to hear it again.
They're
I may have played it before
in your head.
This thing started. Let's try. There are 23 minutes.
Direct questions: what do they want? And you can normally break it down to some fairly simple things. Who wants security of
We didn't get that far.
Bought in, then you can multiply the message.
Yeah,
that's my.
No, I totally agree, mate.
Thinking
it's
so.
22. No, we didn't get that far.
One of them, and then they just have 2 more to remember that they can see that those are popular. They can see that people get behind it, right? And they can see that. Well, they can see in the small scale of doing the consultative process that that people get behind it, and one of theirs is in there as well. And okay, so the other 59 people are going to be reciprocal. I'll go and sell this message. I'll go and bring this message out there because my message is in there, and I'll do a favor for the other guys with their messages, with the other 2 messages that I don't feel so strongly about. But I know that if I do that, they'll do the reciprocal thing for me. They'll take my message out to the people that they know in their life, and I'm prepared to horse trade and let them take one of their manifesto points as well. And this is how you do consensus building, and this is how you get once people are bought in, and a group of people are bought in, then you can multiply the message.
Yeah,
That's my
no, I totally agree, mate.
thinking. That's
It's
so,
you build consensus from broad principle.
What's that? Sorry.
You build consensus from broad principle, and as you progress through, people come in with perhaps different views and perspectives. But the point is, they're following the principle. It's as long as you maintain control of the broad direction, so that you can specify the end goal. Um, it's about building that consensus and then momentum afterwards. And I mean momentum in the proper sense, not in the Labour Party sense. But it's
Of course, yeah.
it's I agree. I agree. There's, as Ralph said, we've got to go out. We've got to ask people the direct questions: what do they want? And you can normally break it down to some fairly simple things. People want security of the roof over their head, security of income, so that they can actually feed and clothe their families, and security in terms of their personal safety. So, very broadly speaking, in other words, it's no different from any basic survival situation: shelter, food, and water. Or shelter, security, and water. Or, warmth. Let's really break it down to almost Ray Mears level of survival here. We got to we got to give the people the opportunity to keep the roof over their heads. We've got to give them the opportunity to put food in their stomachs, and we've got to give the opportunity of security or warmth, if you will. If we can articulate
what they want,
in a more,
if that's what they say they want. Now,
yeah,
there's a good chance that those things will figure highly in the list of things that they want, but maybe not, and we have to be prepared to go. And this is what I love about what Ralph said in the stream the other day. Whatever they want, that's what we have to deliver.
Yeah.
Rather than a top-down idea.
There'll always be a manifestation. Yeah. No, I agree.
The data, and then he knows how to crunch the data. I mean, these ideas aren't his. They're not my. The idea. What I've just expounded there is, it's just like basic, simple democracy. It's not my idea, but
no.
I'm just, we're not. People aren't using tried and tested ideas like consensus building or the creative process and brainstorming. They're just not. They're just not. These things aren't taught at schools, and people aren't aware of them.
When I say people here, I'm talking about commentators on the Irish nationalism scene, English European nationalism scene. I'm not talking about the political parties, because obviously the populist parties have gone on Europe, in Europe, like in Vox in Spain, Alternative for Deutsche. They've obviously gone through these processes because they've got organizations that are up and running and functional. But these are the application of organizational principles to take ideas from those ideas or manifesto or ideology, actually create a vehicle that can take those ideas into power to some extent. And where there aren't the political parties, and it's just like still in the ivory tower. So I don't want to be disrespectful to the meta politics guys, but that's only half the story. There's the whole bricks and mortar, blood and guts side to create vehicles, create organizations, mobilize people, and whether it should be the top down, which I'm arguing in this talk here, is it doesn't empower people and it doesn't motivate them in the way that a sort of consensus building movement could be. That's my thinking. That's what I'm playing around with. What do you think?
One of them, and then they just have two more to remember, that they can see that those are popular. They can see that people get behind it, right? and they can see that well, they can see in the small
Yeah.
scale of doing the consultative process that this is that people get behind it, and one of theirs is in there as well. And okay, so
like this stuff isn't rocket science. It's what NGOs use. It's when people are given a draft to go into the community and mobilize. The left use this a lot. With minorities, for example, they go into they get a stack of money to go into victim class area, go and talk to the victim class or the minority, and have these brainstorming workshops from a point of view of empowerment. And some of it is actually empowering. Let's give the devil its due. Why aren't we using it?
One of them, and then they just have two more to remember that they can see that those are popular. They can see that people get behind it, right?
Oh,
and they can see that well, they can see in the small scale of doing the consultative process that this is that people get behind it, and one of theirs is in there as well. And okay, so the other 59 people are going to be reciprocal. I'll go and sell this message. I'll go and bring this message out there because my message is in there, and I'll do.
Unlike anything else in the world, when you pause and then press play again, it doesn't play from where you've paused. It plays from somewhere else. So what at 21 and a half, if I press play, it'll go back to 20.
One of them, and then they just have two more to remember that they can see that those are popular. They can see that people get behind it, right? And they can see that they can see in the I'll go and sell this message. I'll go and bring this message out there because my message is in there, and I'll do a favor for the other, and I'm prepared to horse trade and let them take one of their manifesto points as well. And this is how you do.
Yeah,
that's my
no, I totally agree, mate.
thinking.
It's you build consensus from broad principle.
What's that? Sorry.
Yeah, we're way past that. Free software, eh? You get what you deserve.
Or shelter, security, and water. Or, let's really break it down to almost Ray Mears' level of survival here.
I mean, these ideas aren't his. They're not my. The idea. What I've just expounded there is it's just like basic, simple democracy. It's not my idea. But
no,
I'm just. We're not. People aren't using tried and tested ideas like consensus building or the creative process and brainstorming. They're just not. They're just not. These things aren't taught at schools, and people aren't aware of them.
Sorry, by people I mean yet again, our people like nationalists, anti-lockdown people, anti-cathedral people. In Britain and Ireland, they're doing it. They're using these techniques in Europe. I'm repeating myself because I'm looping back. For anybody who's just picked it, come in lately. Yeah, these techniques of consensus building and organizational building are potentially being used in Europe, or some sort of organizational building. Now, 5 Star, I think, used something similar to this. Might not be everybody's cup of tea, but they did get into the Italian government in the space of like 3 years. So something to be learned there, folks. You don't have to go with the ideology, but take the tools. Study the study their methods. This is what generals, the art of war. This is what generals did. You learn from the enemy. You learn from friend and foe, both. Right. Let's hope that this picks up from where I left it off and doesn't jump back 4 minutes.
Maybe they're not taught. They're not taught for a reason. Maybe they're not taught for a reason, because if they were taught, then they could be used to organize against the cathedral.
Exactly. That makes you wonder, doesn't it?
These are the things the Athenians.
Perhaps another story.
the city states would have used the Greek city states would have used these techniques. These have been around for 2,000 years, 2,500 years.
Yeah.
Structured conversations, not just the free for all conversation, but a conversation with like a plan. Okay, to get everybody's involvement, but there has to be a certain structure. There has to be somebody to run it. To some idea of the structure and say, right, this is what convenes the meeting and says, right, this is what we're going to do. Everybody is to think of 3 things that they want. First of all, I guess you'd need to, before you do that, you say, right, what we're going to do, we're going to have a structured conversation, and the idea is that we leave here in an hour's time with 3 values, principles, or aims that most people here can agree with. Now, does not sound like a good plan, and everybody's going to go, yeah, fantastic. And of course, somebody's going to say, yeah, that's okay, but I want to talk about my idea first, or somebody's going to criticize it. And you say, right, well, this is the way we're going to run it. So if you don't like it, you're welcome to run another. You can run another session tomorrow, but I've convened this session, or we've convened this session, so we're going to run it this way. So I invite you to participate, and see how you get on, and then you go off and start doing it. Run through a process. And this is where I need to go and look at if I'm going to do this. I'm going to, well, I've got a fair idea because I've looked into this. How to looked at videos of how to do the brainstorming part of it, the root, the structure, and it's quite a simple structure, really. Like the brainstorming part of it. For Andrew, this is more for Andrew's benefit because Andrew wasn't present. Can you hear me, Andrew? I mean, if he's not listening, there's no point going through it again. But yeah, I won't say it again because I already explained it to you, Pat. We already went through the brainstorming section part of it to get the ideas out, and then people pick 3 each, and then there's a vote taken, and the next week people might have thought it might be the catalyst to have people think more deeply about what it is they actually want, and they come back the following week and we go through the process again, and maybe it takes 10 iterations going through the process before we're finally happy with the process and the end result.
Yeah.
And if people like the process and people get buy-in, then they say, oh, I want my friend to take part in this. I want to bring 5 people from my life to take part in this. If you're going to do one next week, I want to be there myself, but I want to bring people to it as well, because this is powerful. This is a powerful process. And I've done this process once with a bunch of Irish nationalists, and it was really powerful because everybody was like trying to fight for airspace to get their own point of view across, and nobody was listening to anybody else at all. Nobody was. Yeah, but yeah, it was all yeah. But no, yours won't work. Listen to mine. No, listen to mine. So that was before we started the process. That was the feeling of the meeting before we started the process. Yeah, typical, just with no rules. Well, the only rule is like one person speaks at a time. Well, yeah, you need more than that. Right, let's make sure this picks up from the right place. Not the way, that's not a productive way to get a consensus. There has to be a structure. The structure is to let everybody take a turn and put forward some ideas, write them all down, and then have a vote, and then tot it all up and do it all publicly. So you put a wee farm gate beside each one, and then people can see that the process was transparent. People walked out of that. There was a calmness and a sense of unity. Walked out of that room. It was a wee hut in the forest in County Clare, It was a special. It was like a. It was like a nice feeling. It was a beautiful feeling. Actually, it was like a feeling of unity by going through this process. And the magic was the process. The magic was just having a bit of structure to it. Just, you know, there's a time to speak and a time to listen, and everybody has their time to listen to speak, and they're limited, and then they have, they say their bit, and then everybody. Anyway, look, I've overdone that one to death, so I'm going to shut up for a while.
No, I get your principle, mate. I do understand it. It's you're creating a constitution, so to speak, and you're putting in a structure necessary in order to create the baseline, and and any hierarchy will develop out of that. So based upon the broad consensus in any particular area, the most suitable person or persons will be able to take the lead, so to speak.
Would be the project manager, the project manager for the realization of that aim. EMA, EMB, EMC, or maybe you do it first with creating a vision, and then from the vision you create a 5-year plan, and as you say, work backwards from the long-term plan, work back to the 1-year plan and the 2-month plan. This sort of like these tools are used by organizations, by corporations, and they're used for a reason. They're used because they're powerful. They get things, the ways to get things done, the way, the people, the organizations, teams and corporations using these techniques are getting places. Because you get around the top down hierarchy where people don't have buy-in, and if people don't have buy-in, then they don't work. They don't work on an idea that they don't feel ownership of. But if people feel ownership of the idea because they took part in the process, the deciding process, then and that's, I love that what Ralph was saying. It's the best way to get something going.
Interesting, mate. It's interesting.
And we can sort of, as you were saying, we can sort of predict. We can sort of predict what the results are going to be because we know people, but we have to be prepared to be surprised at the same time.
I keep cutting this poor fellow off. I'll have to give him a bit more time because he was like warming to a point there, and then I've just been talking for another minute. Sorry, mate. He's very patient with me.
Sorry, I said I would say nothing, and I jumped back in again.
I noticed.
That's fair. It's perfectly fair comment, mate. It is. Like you said, there's always going to be the element of the unexpected that comes in, generated either by circumstances or persons involved. But then that's the world we live in. That's the reality we live in, and that's also the point of a consensus based on an initially broad principle. It has to have flex to it. This is what we need, like as we were saying yesterday, getting away from the old purity spiraling, because that is a concrete set position with a concrete set goal, and that's just inert. That is not going anywhere. What you have to do, it's like sailing a ship. You launch off and you point it in the right direction, and the hopes, in the hopes, and with a little strategic guidance, the currents and the winds take you to your destination or near as damn it. And you've got to accept it's going to be a crooked journey. And the only major factor that we're facing here in the West is that we might have a bit of a time scale imposed upon us because of outside interferences by the cathedral and mass immigration. But it's the principles hold. We've got to get the ship pointing in the right direction at the first, but we just got to get going, and we've got to get the crew together, so to speak. Again, I'm talking in analogies, but you know what I mean,
mate. No, but analogies are great. I was about to ask you about an analogy, actually, because I think we need an analogy to show people how like purity spiraling is a dud strategy, that it hasn't worked. It doesn't work in the history, that successful campaigns have been broad-fronted and have been about building alliances against a common enemy. Like a Can you've studied history. You've studied history a bit, and Andrew, jump in here if you can think of anything as well. Can we think of good and historic analogies, metaphors, or historical precedents, models where success has come from, joining together to defeat a common enemy? People that mightn't agree on everything, but certainly they have bigger disagreements with a common enemy, and more in common than they would have with the enemy. They band together temporarily for the purposes of defeating the enemy, in the knowledge that they will sort out their differences between them thereafter. So it's a temper, people that
it's what coalition governments do when there's countries and nations with proportional representation, like, for example, the Republic of Ireland. So, bitter enemies, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael formed a coalition government for the first time ever, with the Greens this time. So they put, some of our people on the more purity spiraling side seem to think that if you ally with some other organization or party, it means that you subsume yourself under them, but they don't back themselves. They don't back their ability to stand up and assert themselves as a peer, and also that they don't back themselves to be able to disentangle themselves from that afterwards. So a lot of them have very poor agency, it has to be said. It seems to be. So yeah, this is standard sauce. This is how the world works. Coalitions. Let's hope that where were we? 35-56. So if it jumps back, we'll just come back to here. 35-56.
People that are in the ivory towers of philosophy and politics and history, which is, it's great that work needs to be done, but they're not not good at promoting the idea of a short-term, or they seem to be afraid that to make a strategic alliance with somebody that is a different ideology is in some sense giving up or capitulating. But it's only you're being quite clear that I'm not joining. We're going into this as peers. We're not going into. I'm not subsumed.
Oh, Conor, shut up and let the man speak. I'm so embarrassed. Padfa, if you're listening, man, I'm sorry. Come back. I wish it was back in time and would give you a chance and stop rabbiting on here.
We're not going into. I'm not subsuming to your ideology.
Yeah.
Like by the fact that I'm joining a front. We're gonna create a front, and it's not gonna be named your front. It's not going to be named Padfa's front.
As has been suggested.
Because Conor's going to join it. Connor's going to join Padfa's front, but it's going to be called the Conor Padfa front from now on in, or we'll look at some name that it's a coming together of peers. And then once we've defeated the great Ralph, the great Cathedral Ralph, then for the sake of an example, right? Then we'll work out we'll disengage and we'll work out our own our differences. I mean, that model has been used since time immemorial, but the philosophers in the ivory towers don't seem to be aware of it. Don't seem to have studied that, or it's not in their consciousness.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate. Look at the last year or so of this whole COVID thing, and that's precisely what's been done to us as members of the public. You've seen the joining of politics, science, the medical profession, and the judiciary, and the media have all worked in concert with each other. Not necessarily natural allies, but I mean, leaving aside what's going on behind the scenes. but as organisations, not traditional allies, but they've all worked in concert in order for what they're calling a bigger goal. Granted, it's a bit of a creation, but it's still a perfect analogy. What if we were to hijack that?
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm just thinking along those lines. We've had it. The cathedral works this way.
Sorry, I interrupted at the wrong time because you're about to say what if. You're about to say what if.
What if we hijack the very process that's been used against us during this whole COVID crisis? There's been what has been set up by this COVID crisis is an overarching enemy, the COVID bug, the big scary bug. And various organizations that, in the minds of most people, would think themselves are not natural allies, have all directed their attention and their persuasive powers towards that particular goal. Now, leaving aside that it may well be a created enemy, so to speak, we've got to adopt that model. We've got to get these strategic alliances between groups that are not natural allies, and identify a common principle to both unite under and to direct towards, and in that process move even if action rather than inertia, as we've got at the moment, actual action towards moving towards that particular principle, which, as we were saying earlier, we're going to try and identify and see if we can't create some sort of alliance in that respect. We're doing, I wouldn't say hijacking, we're plagiarizing the very process that they've been using against us. Why not? It's just how we do it. It's also about positioning persuasion in the right ears in the right places. But then, as I said a couple of nights ago, we also we need to start networking amongst ourselves, because there are going to be people that you and I and everyone else knows who work in various different professions and give us an insight into that profession, into those organizations, those corporations, those companies, that we should be able to use that information for our benefit. So it's a process of information gathering and providing a strategic goal and an impetus behind it.
Yeah, because the spying is going one way. They're spying on us. They know everything we're up to. They're probably aware of this conversation. Somebody's potentially listening to this conversation. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm possibly going to make this public with your permission.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, because I think it's been valuable ground we've covered here, and I appreciate you've been my dialogue part. The magic happens in a dialogue. You can't do this in a monologue, because in a monologue you don't have an audience to get your ideas out to, and then see how they sound, get a bit of feedback on them, get a counterpoint, and then refine the ideas. And then when each of us has been speaking, the other person has been inspired to take their own view of it on further. And we've been brainstorming, basically. This is the essence of brainstorming. We've been trying to build on each other's ideas rather than shoot them down straight away. This is the essence of creative thinking.
Hadfa has created a listening for me. In the words of the Landmark Forum, which is a great personal development thing I've done about 20 years ago. Yeah. And when somebody's willing to provide a listening for you, listening for the gold, they're listening for the positive, which is what this man's been doing, and that he's assisted me to get the ideas out. I mightn't agree with them, I think they're crap, but at least he's given me the chance to get them out and build upon them. And, yeah, the listening. he gives a good model. It's a good concept. Anyway, we continue.
Yeah, so this is good practice. This is
Exactly.
and this no matter how imperfect the end product might be, no matter how imperfect the process might be, it's a lot better than the dialectic, dialogue that's been going on in our circles. So I think it's important to get this out
Yeah,
here
yeah,
as a sort of like a rough and ready draft, and then and we and I and whoever else wants to take part in these conversations can keep working on our skills, working on the principle, and get the principle out there of consensus building, creative thinking, in terms of building on ideas like that. From the point of view that we need solutions. And one of the things about brainstorming is is to get lots of solutions out, because if you get the more solutions you have, the more chances you're going to find a good one.
exactly, mate. Exactly. I've just scribbling something down here, mate. See how this strikes you.
Let's have
Um,
it.
in any set of circumstances, yeah. As we in the context of what we're talking about, any one individual, family, or street, village, town, etc. As you building up the social hierarchy, you're looking at what people are desiring are, or what people are looking for is, first of all, benefits. What are they getting out of it? But also, what are they having to put into it? So that's investment. And then the third one, most importantly of all, is power. And what I mean by that is, whilst in, let's say you invest in something locally for your local, let's say your local town. So your local town creates a little slush fund, you know. So that's the literal investment. The benefit is that slush funds used for the betterment of the communities. Let's say, I don't know, medical bills, or to build a church or a community hall or a sports thing for the kids, whatever it is. The power being, they have to have the power and the autonomy to actually exercise that. In other words, so acquire a piece of land, get the planning permission, build the structure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got those three elements. Every community, not just every community, is looking to exercise to as much as possible, and of course that goes right down to the individual as well. You as a businessman, as a for instance, are looking to invest in order to benefit, but you've got to have the power and the capacity to do it. You have to have the knowledge, the contexts, and the organizational skills. So there's all those three elements. So that's the three motivating elements. And then, of course, you've got the three essentials that everyone's looking for. Every individual and every community looking for is that they want their home, their identifiable piece of uh, territory. They want a certain amount of security and safety, um, and personal comfort, with food and warmth and etc. Um, so all three of those last three and the first three have all got to sort of correspond, haven't they? Sorry, I'm really talking in abstracts here, but that's what I'm thinking. So if we're going from that basis, how do we articulate that into principles and offers to the public? Sorry, I mean, I'm being really abstract here, aren't I? But I'm just scratching that through, because if you've got power, you've got responsibility. If you've got benefit, you've got cost. And if you've got investment, no, if you've got investment, you've got cost. Benefit also creates, well, it could be responsibility as well. Well, it could be investment. No, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm mixing things with terms up. I don't know. But sorry, I was just slashing that one through, mate. Yeah.
No problem. This is great. This is like this is what most people don't do. Most people aren't prepared to work it out as they're going along. This is the essence of creativity. You're improvising. You're thinking out loud. So much talking is showing off knowledge, pre-remembered, pre-read knowledge, and not the synthesis.
Yeah, I know.
What you're doing there is synthesizing ideas, and you're thinking, right? You're putting ideas together for the first time, and because it's a rough draft, it's a bit rough around the edges, and that could keep working, and the recording is going to be available to you. Like, I'm not sure if I follow it, but then again, like, I'm hearing it for the first time as well. Keep work, I'll send you through the recording, listen to that bit again, jot it down. You'll be able to play it back and replay it and work through, and then come back with a better version. Please, I'd be interested to see. And that'll be great. That'll be a great example of how the process works as well. The process of brainstorming, get some rough ideas down. Mightn't be coherent, the first draft, and then it'll be interesting to hear what the second draft is. Episode 2, maybe next week.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I got it the wrong way around. You invest. You need the power. You invest in all, and you need the power in order to create the project, and then the end of the project is the benefit, isn't it? So it's 1, 2, 3. So that's the order it goes in. Investment power and responsibility, and then benefit. I see. Right, I'm with you. Right. Okay. Sorry. I'll catch up with episode 2 on that one, mate.
Yeah. Good.
Hello, Dara.
Oh, Dara's here. Right. Fuck's sake. How long have you been there, Dara?
Just a moment. I'm not sure if I can hang around for long. But and I just saw there was a few people here. I thought I'd poke my head in and see how's it all going.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was the three of us. We had a great chat there 2 weeks ago, or about a week and a half ago, man. It was a wonderful. Actually, it's going on for 2 weeks because it was.
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, Jesus Christ! I think I talked. I'd say almost for fucking an hour straight at one point.
That was a great conversation. That was a great conversation. Yeah. We were talking about action and solutions, weren't we?
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
I was actually I was gonna remember. I said I'd do a secret chat with you. I think I told you. I did. This is a bit ridiculous to say, but I did a couple of naughty things, like some kind of low level. Let's just say, the signs. I removed some of the signs because I just got sick of some of them. Low level stuff. But I went around. Yeah, I went around to some playgrounds and some schools and stuff, and I just took down the signs, and they'd not been replaced. Just don't think those things are. Anyway, it was a very small thing, but I have been thinking recently though about just kind of, I don't know, like here where I live in Galway, we have a lot of there is people who go every Saturday, and they do this kind of walk down the street. I think I mentioned this before, and they kind of have a few speeches.
Yeah.
Usually, it's okay. There is it sometimes there's kind of elements of a bit of the people who are a little bit, kind of bit more on the fringes when it comes to some of the theories. Talk.
Yes.
It's pretty mild. It's not, it wouldn't, like, a lot of people wouldn't make them go like, what the fuck is what's going on here? But they walk down the main pedestrian street, and they'll have some banners, and it's all like, it's a very much like, don't end the lockdown, no more lockdown, and freedom. That's the message, and they keep doing it every week. And I think that if we keep doing that here, it's definitely something like it stays in people's minds if it happens every week, which I think is actually, I think it's quite useful, because everyone will probably be thinking, what are they talking about? It's all opening up, but it'll be in their minds if there is more restrictions coming, that there is people out there that actually will do something, and so there's something that people can join. You got to like get yourself out and be seen. It's pretty important, but doing it regularly, I think, is a good thing. But it's a small town, so it's easy to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know some of those people. Dara O'Flaherty.
Yeah, he seems real sound. Yeah.
And David O'Reilly, two great patriots, great nationalists, great men of the people. They came up and helped me. They came up and helped me in my election campaign and tail end of 2019. Stayed in my house for 3 days, and we did some great canvassing around nationalist areas in mid Ulster. And there's because of their influence, they've really created a highly visible, unafraid, in their clearing, this concept of clearing in the they're the trees, and the tree stands in their space that's around it, and they create that becomes that they normalize, like, not being afraid, being unabashed, wearing their the position on their sleeve, but not. There's certainly one thing we were talking about earlier on, myself and Patrick here, is like purity spiraling. One thing that David O'Reilly and Darrell Flaherty are certainly not is purity spiralists, because for example, they don't have exactly the same outlook on everything, but they're able to work together, and they both. David O'Reilly especially is very, very much a consensus builder. He was actually, Padfa, he was at that meeting in the woods in Clare about 20 nationalists middle of last year. Yeah, he's the guy with the long white hair and the long white beard. He looks like Vercingetorix. He embodies the ancient, the medieval Celtic warrior, the Christian Celtic warrior. He's like he does reenactments with his Irish chariot and stuff like that, and talks about the the spiritual and historical backgrounds of our people. He embodies that. We were talking in one of the Ralph streams there about who do you embody, who do you try, which of the heroes of the past do you try and embody? When I say try, obviously we're humans, but we do need models, we do need role models. And he takes his inspiration from the old Gaelic heroes. Some people take Padraig Pearse as their inspiration. Dara, who do you take? Does anybody inspire you, or Padfa, or anybody in the call?
It's a good question. I don't know. Let me think. There's many. I'll have to think for a second. That's like, what's your favorite movie kind of question.
yeah. Or just throw out one. Throw out a good. Instead of like, what's your favorite movie? And say, tell me about a movie you like. Tell me about a personality or a person from history or mythology.
I'll give you one, mate. There was a great Victorian called Sir Richard Burton. Yeah, have you heard of him? Anglo-Irish fella.
The actor. But if you say Victorian, then you're talking about like a couple of generations before the actor.
Oh, well before that, mate. In the 1880s, he explored the Nile and tried to find the source of it. He wandered through India. He was a man he had dark hair and dark eyes, and he blended in with the locals. He was a great linguist, which I'm absolute crap at, and I'm very jealous of people who can speak multiple languages. I bet he's passing English. And he just explored the Middle East. He was the first Westerner to go into Mecca and actually touch the Black Stone undercover, posing as a Muslim. And he explored all these different cultures, and he was the first to translate 1001 Nights. He was a fascinating character, a real Renaissance man, a proper Renaissance man in that respect. He also had quite an adventurous sexual history, apparently, but so that's another story. But yeah, look him up. Sir Richard Burton, and I'm not talking about the actor, I'm talking about the Victorian explorer. He's a fascinating man when you look into him.
Yeah, I think I may have heard of him before. Yeah, I think so. I'm just thinking. I like that guy. What was his name? He was was he a Roman admiral? And he was like a kind of philosopher and a kind of an engineer and architect. And what was his name again? Is it Pliny? I think that's it. He was pretty good.
Pliny.
Pliny, that's it. Pliny. Yeah, he was a pretty cool character. Just and anyone who, I mean, there's been many of them, but the kind of types who were the explorers who would go to kind of like the the sort of new frontiers. I think that's like a deep kind of, people who do that kind of stuff, that's like a very it brings all of the sort of the good parts of humanity together, and kind of like, I need to go out and find, places, and to see what, just sort of a sort of determination and curiosity put together is people who have that is very admirable, I think.
Determination and curiosity.
Yeah, together.
Mm-hmm. And that's what he embodies for you. And it might be personal to you. It might other people might get it and they might not, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is that you get it, and that's what inspires you. And you found somebody. There's somebody there that speaks to you, that their life embodies that, something that those values, principles that you would hold dear. And you can ask yourself, and we can all do this as well. We can ask ourselves, what would, if you're faced with a difficult choice or a difficult situation, what would Pliny do now? What would Richard Burton do now in this situation? What would Padraig Pearse, maybe for me, do now in this situation? Yeah. Andrew, is there anybody for you, if you're still there? And he was in the pub earlier on. Or sorry, he wasn't in the pub, he was in the streets, drinking on the street in Dublin. So there's a lot of background noise, so maybe he can't hear us.
I got a few minutes. I'll come back in a bit. I'll be back in a few minutes. Excuse me.
Daniel?
Oh, right. Films, I can't. Trying to think of some films.
I meant the film as a metaphor, as a sort of like an analogy for the person, rather, because like Dara felt put on the spot, and he said, "This is a bit like, what's your favorite film?" And who's your favorite personality from history? Is a bit like, what's your favorite film? It puts you on the spot. Oh my God, I got to get this right. And I said, right, rather than me asking you, what's your favorite film? It's more like, name me some films that you like. So it doesn't have to be the best one. Just whatever ones come to mind. It's like, in terms of the person, just to give them that freedom to choose. Freedom to. It didn't have to be the perfect answer.
I can think of two films that I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I'll go back to continuously. One is Miller's Crossing, if you've ever heard of it. It was a Coen brothers film about Prohibition era gangsters. Funny enough, that was interesting because it was about two rival gangs and the politics between them, and how they try to screw each other over. And I just liked it for the old fashioned phrases and slang that was used. I just appreciated that sort of thing. Maybe it's a kid inside me. But another film, Breaker Morant. You ever watched that?
Say that again, the title of it?
Breaker Morant, with Edward Woodward.
No, not the second one. I've heard. I think I watched the first one, alright, Miller's Crossing, but Breaker Morant. Tell us about Breaker Morant.
Breaker Morant. I think it was reviewed recently on Frody's Guide to Culture, but I've got a slightly different review. It's about the Boer War, and it's about an Australian military unit that effectively got betrayed by the politics and the British High Command in during the Boer War, and it was effectively a British military unit that got used for counter guerrilla warfare during the Boer War, and because of the methods they used, supposedly under order, they were later prosecuted for it, and two of them were executed. And it's based on a true story, and it's still very controversial in Australia. And the two guys that got executed for it was, I've forgotten the Australian guy's name, but the English guy's name was Breaker Morant. He was from Devon, funnily enough, just along the coast from me. And it's it's a courtroom drama or a court martial drama, if you will, interspersed with scenes of what happened in the battlefield that led ultimately to their court martial. But it sums up the folly of the folly of war and the folly of empire, but at the same time, people trying to do their duty, or trying to do their jobs in the best, most professional, effective way possible, and then having to pay the price for it, but by and tried by the very people they were working on behalf of. And I've got a lot of sympathy for that situation because I've been in it myself. And I mean, you look at the trials at the moment. Soldiers come back from Iraq and Afghan, and then suddenly being put on trial. You know, it bypasses the whole morality question of war to examine the fact that wars are interactions of young men just trying to do their job because they entered it believing to be what they were doing was the correct thing, and then having done their duty, they are then held to account for it by the very authorities that asked them to do the job in the first place. And the contradictions and perversities of the whole situation is very interesting. But that it's a really interesting film from that point of view. And a lack of appreciation of one party's perspective and another party's perspective. And it's quite educational in that point of view. I mean, first saw it. It's a film made back in the early 70s. I first saw it when I was a kid, so in the like mid 80s, and it struck a nerve with me then. And it still strikes a nerve with me now. No, but yeah, a good film. Good film.
Breaker Morant, yeah. I might try and look it up because I often struggle on Netflix. Well, of course, Netflix is junk. There's probably something I've started.
I don't watch that.
Yeah, I've actually taken cancelled the subscription. You can find these sorts of things like Breaker Morant. Maybe I could find it on Amazon Films. I watched what's his name, Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. I found that one on Amazon. Morgoth and some American dude, was it the distributist were Endeavor? Morgoth.
Yeah.
Right, lads, that's it. Just gone 1 o'clock, and I've hit 1 hour and 5 minutes in that. We've got loads of stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for being here, listening in. I'll probably pick that up again sometime tomorrow. So I like this format, actually. I mean, replaying conversations with the guys' permission, because like it's a great conversation, and then it reminds me of stuff, or I think I'm saying stuff, adding new stuff, and half the time it's stuff that I repeat in the actual real conversation. But you guys seem to enjoy it, and maybe if it was like earlier on in the day, you'd jump on and have a discussion, and we'd go off in a different direction. So say good night. Ihiwa. That's good night in Irish.